Good morning, good morning, beautiful people. Good afternoon, good evening. No matter what time it is, just know this is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. As always, God is good, and He is good all the time.
And I will say, from my observation, it was for the female corps of the Marine Corps. Even male staff NCOs will be like I mean, there was some female staff NCOs that I will steer clear of. I was like, man, she brutal, right? Like, because I did feel like female Marines are always hard on other female Marines, right? But there was a system in place that kind of made them you eat your own, right? And so I used to say the same thing, like, man, I don't know. Like I used to be like, I would hate to be a female Marine because the female NCOs and staff NCOs was brutal. I mean, things that I was just like, man, what's wrong with you? Like, calm down. You know what I'm saying? Like, let them breathe, and
I got my good dear friend of mine with me, Mr. Maurice Grose. I'll let him introduce himself, but I just want to put it out there that I met him in the Marine Corps, and he wasn't even my staff NCO, and he's like one of the main people that I stay in contact with. It's motherfucking crazy. But I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah. My name is Maurice Grose, originally from Memphis, Tennessee. As Tiara said, I met her in the Marine Corps. Funny thing, I did 12 years in the Marine Corps, then got out, did some contracting, government contracting, and then decided that just wanted to wash my hands of government work and kind of see if I can really make it on my own without, I call it being on the government's tit, because I've been doing this since I was 17. So I hadn't, outside of high school jobs, I wanted to see if I could, make it in the corporate world. So I left government work, and it's been the best decision for me and my family personally. I've been more successful and less stressed. So it was a testament to myself, but also a proof to the naysayers that was if you leave government work, you're not gonna be able to do this and do that, and they was wrong. So that's basically me in a nutshell.
That's what's up. So I wanna, cause like I told you, this interview is strictly about you. So anything that you do not feel comfortable with disclosing, you don't have to.
Sure.
I'm gonna ask you questions revolving around everything. So, and I want to start with the military because I know, well, for one, that's the place that I have met you. But before, well, actually, I don't even want to start in the military. Actually, what motherfreaking led Maurice to join the service? I feel like this is the perfect place to start, especially for people who may be considering joining.
Yeah, so it was a combination of things like any, when you make big choices like this, usually a combination of experiences, in your environment, right? So I'm originally from Chicago. I was born and raised, I was born in Chicago and raised there to about the 5th grade. We lived in Dalton, which is east side, right next to Calumet City. And my parents moved there. It was a suburb. But it quickly became GD, area. So we was in, where we lived at, ended up becoming GD territory, Gangster Disciples, and then across the way was VL's Vice Lords, and so they didn't get along. And so I have an older sister. I'm a twin. So I'm one of 4. I got 3 sisters. I got an older sister, a twin sister, and a younger sister. But basically, I'm the only boy. And so when I was young, I was hanging out. I didn't have no older brothers. Hanging out with older guys, that I thought was cool because they was big brothers to me. I remember somebody stole my bike. My mom told me she asked me to go to the corner store. Like any black community, we got the liquor store right there on the corner. So my mom asked me to go to the corner store and get some bread. She was like, "Do not ride your bike up there." And what I do, I went and hopped on the bike and rode to the corner. So my bike was gone. So I came home, got the motherfucking butt whooping, right? Because I did exactly what my mom told me not to do, right? And then she was like, "You need to go out there and find your bike." So I went back out, looking for my bike. I ran into the older guys I used to hang out with. I mean, these older dudes teach me stuff, how to play baseball. They play basketball with them. You know, always, you know, me and my friends, we was like the little homies. And these are the big homies, right? And this is like back when you know, this is early 90s, right? So this is back when like gangs actually like cared about the territory they claimed. It wasn't just like, oh, we here selling drugs. Like they looked out. Like if you was living in that territory, them dudes would not let nobody mess with kids from that neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Like they would get on us if like the lights came on, supposed to be home. They'd be like, hey, little ninja, ain't you supposed to be at the house? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, if we was doing some stuff we had no business doing, they'd be the ones taking us home and telling on us. You know what I'm saying? So they can actually, not like today where these dudes just don't be caring, right? But back then, like, you know, so it was a trap. It was real easy if you was a young man or young woman to fall into like that kind of lifestyle, because you didn't see the drug deal. I never saw any drug dealing. I never saw no guns. You know what I'm saying? I never saw none of that stuff. These were just dudes that be outside smoking cigarettes, hanging around, kicking it, doing whatever, right? Some teenagers, some grown men. But, you know, if you was walking, they made sure you was straight, you know, tie your shoes up, that kind of stuff, tuck your shirt in. They were just, you know, real decent dudes. So anyway, I was telling you, my bike got stolen. And these dudes went and found my bike, right? They went and found my bike, and they found the kid that stole it. And they put him in a full Nelson and was like, man, get him back. He took your stuff, man. And I was like, I just want my bike. You know, they was like, nah, man, can't let nobody take your stuff there. You're going to be a punk. So they got this kid up in the full Nelson. I'm sitting there warming his ribs up, you know. And I grew up, my dad boxed. I grew up boxing. So I'm over there hitting him up. You know, I felt good going home. And so long story short, what I didn't realize was that I was like slowly being groomed, because I was like young, right? But I was being groomed, you know, into when I turned 10 or 11 or 13, the expectation was that I was going to become a G, right? And so that word kind of got out, and some parents came to my mom and, you know, dad, and told them like, hey, your son hang around these folks, you know, this is what their intentions are, right? And my mom was like, you know, I didn't know this conversation happened. You know, but I just know one day my mom and dad was like, you can't go to this house no more. You can't go over here. Don't go on this block. Don't do this. Right. And of course, I'll sneak when I said I'm going to my friend Marcus' house. I'm really going over there. You know, that's where all the fun was. And so some situations happened. Our house got shot up, you know, and then my mom told my dad, you know, basically, hey, you need to get, you know, this because my dad's working 2 jobs. She's like, you know, you never home. You know, he out here hanging out with older dudes because you ain't here. You know, so my dad was like, all right, check it out. I'm going to get you up out of here. So they pushed me down to Memphis. I went to Memphis, stayed with my grandma about 5th grade, stayed with my grandma, then my parents called up. You know, they got to wait till they job and get them somewhere or do whatever. So it took me a couple of years. So I was down in Memphis. My dad got like 4 or 5 other brothers. So that was a better role model influence on me. My dad's side of the family is straight, you know, like slaves, right? They come from slaves. So we got a lot of farmland. You know, my granddad was a cow farmer. Beef, we sold beef cows to slaughter. So it's like 117 acres.
Oh, that's dope.
And I grew up. Yeah, so that's where I grew up. I grew up like, you know, I started, you know, it was different from when I did Chicago. So it was a rough curve at first, but learning curve. But I got used to like getting up early doing chores, you know, and then I learned how to hunt, learn how to trap, trap squirrels and stuff, and live off the land. We grew everything. My grandparents didn't have a lot of money, so most everything we ate was from right there. I learned how to butcher. I learned all that stuff, right? And so when my parents called up, you know, and all my cousins were down there. Everybody lived on that damn farm. Like my grandparents had a house, and I had an auntie house over here. It was all on the same property. So like when I was going to school, all my best friends was all my cousins. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't have no friends. I didn't have from 5th grade up to my senior year, I had no friends that was not blood until I joined the Marine Corps. Because every grade I was in, I had cousins everywhere, right? And so, you know, the Groses, we would stick. You know, if you mess with one of us, you was going to get hit with the swarm, you know? And so basically, me and my twin sister graduated high school, and my dad was like, hey, check it out. My parents are divorced. My dad was like, hey, check it out. I can remortgage the house, but I'm still only going to have enough money for one of y'all I can pay for one of y'all to go to college, because he's like, this is, you know, unfortunately, this is what happens when you have twins. Y'all both graduate at the same time, so everything's double. Right. So me and my sister basically drew straws for it, and she had been, you know, she won. She had been accepted by Hampton. I was still waiting to hear back, you know. So She took the college route. Then my dad was like, "What you gonna do?" And I was working at the car wash at the time, and I was like, "I'm just gonna keep working at the car wash." And he was like, "All right, man, you got a couple weeks. You know what I'm saying? Pack your stuff, get out the house." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, but you're not gonna be a grown man living in a house. You ain't going to school. You know, make your way." So I asked my grandma, "Can I stay with her?" She was like, "Yeah, you move back in." And my dad was like, "No, you're not going back over. This is my mama's house." You know what I'm saying? Like, figure it out. So I was 17. And so what else do I do, right? So I went right on down to recruiting mall. You know, I talked to a few friends that maybe used to crash on the couch, but you know, like I wasn't for the I wasn't raised. I wasn't for the crash on nobody's couch, and so I was like, my dad and his brothers all in the military. My granddad was in, so it just seemed logical. I was like, I'm gonna go try the military. So I actually went to the Army first, and I went down to MEPS to go sign up because we didn't have a recruiting mall. You had to go to MEPS. So I went downtown, went to MEPS, and this joker, like the line for the Army was out the door. All these black dudes over there, the line out the door, right? And I was like, I ain't trying to wait all day, right? And so basically the one that had the path of least resistance, right? Like the Marine Corps had like literally had nobody in. Dude had nobody in there. Right. So I went in there, told him, you know, hey, when can I go to boot camp? You know, as fast as possible. So I took the ASVAB. I had to get my dad to sign because I was 17. He signed off on it, and then I was gone. You know, rest was history. And looking back, it was the best thing for me for Maurice at 17 years old.
It's interesting that you said that your dad was kind of like you got to figure something out because you're not about to be a grown man staying with me. How do you feel about that? Is that like something that you respected from your dad or not? Because I've heard like mixed things about that coming from different guys.
You know what? Like I didn't like it, you know, and I don't think my dad showed to my boot camp graduation, you know, and that was like, he was like really proud. Like he was more proud of that than he was my high school graduation. Like, I mean, dude was like proud, like super happy, right out on the parade deck. But I was still mad about the fact that like I'm in a situation, like I didn't really have a choice, you know what I'm saying? Right. And so, you know, I remember he was trying to give me a hug, and I was like, Dad, we can't have no PDA. I like stiffed arm the dudes, like no PDA on the parade deck. You know what I'm saying? Like full of Kool-Aid. You know how it is when you first get out. You know what I'm saying? I drank all the Kool-Aid, so you know, I was like, nah, man, no PDA on the parade deck. And then you know, I went to MOS school, Pensacola, and after MCT, and I was graduating top of my class, so I got to choose, and I saw Japan, so I was trying to get as far away from these folks as possible. I was still mad. So I was like, yeah, let me get them Japan orders, right? Let me get up out this country completely. And I didn't even come home my whole time in Japan, like my first tour, you know. I came in a contract private. Like, I wasn't no PFC. Like, anybody ever gave me, I earned every straight. Nobody ever gave me nothing. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I showed up to Oki, you know, Okinawa, Japan, the PFC, you know, staying at parade rest for Lance Corporals and stuff, right? So I was mad at that man up until I was about 21. Right. And at that point, I think I had matured enough. I had already been to OIF2. You know, I lost a couple buddies, experienced my own, you know, combat situation. And so when I come, you know, those experiences kind of, you know, it make you grow up military make you grow real fast. Like you become an adult real fast, right? And so I wasn't mad about it anymore because I understood what he did and why he did it that way, right? Because looking back at 17-year-old Maurice, if he would have let me stay there, I would still be in Memphis where all the rest of them dudes is my friends are. Right. You know what I'm saying? Doing the same stuff. And so he was kind of pushing me out the bird's nest. It was hard, but at the same time, he knew that I look at it like this, like my dad had enough trust and faith and love in me that he knew I would land on my feet. My whole life, he would never put me in a situation that I would be set for failure. Right. So if he didn't think that I was capable of making a good decision and figuring it out, then he would have allowed me to stay there, you know, and keep working. But so I don't look at it as negative. I think for parents that do that, you just got to know your kid. You know, it's not a cookie cutter solution, one size fits all. Like when your kid turn 18, kick him out the house. Yeah. Right. But I think if you know your child and you know how strong they are, you know that they may be afraid to take that risk, but you know that you gave them all the tools and have all the smarts, and not just book smarts, but common sense and street smarts to make it. You know, then yeah, give them a little nudge. You know, and they'll figure out the path. You know, and so.
Would you say
Yeah.
that like your upbringing, you know, even like the lessons like that with your dad, would you say like that helped prepare you not only for like life in general, but like the military, especially the Marine Corps?
You know, it did, and it's funny too because like when I first came in the Marine Corps, like I was a scrapper. I fought all the time. Like you know, back then it was all the tree line stuff, so people wasn't writing folks up.
Mm.
But my wife would tell you, like when I first asked her to date me, we dated and asked my girlfriend. She was like, "Nope, you fight too much." I mean, every date we went on. I'm not even joking. Every weekend I only took her to clubs, and I was fighting every weekend, right? And it's because like where I come from, you know, and I know you're from New York, so like you'll be able to understand this, right? Where I come from, when I grew up in Chicago, like, you know, even in Memphis, like, you didn't, like, it wasn't, I didn't grow up, if you was low income, you didn't grow up materialistic, especially you grew up in a neighborhood that was kind of dangerous, right? So, like, if you was walking around with starter jackets on and Jordans, and you flossing, you out here, like, trying to clown folks because they don't have that, like, you made yourself on the spotlight target, you finna get robbed.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, when I got in the Marine Corps, like, it was dudes that was, like, you know, joking and checking people like, oh, look at his shoes, look at this, you got this bum, you know, blah blah, you're not wearing this. I'm like, man, like, are you serious? Like, where I'm from, the person that's being goofy, like, you goofy. That's what we call them, goofy, right? Like, the person stuff that being goofy and clowning everybody, like, everybody looking at you, everybody laughing with you, but there's some dudes in the back in the corner that's not laughing. You know what I'm saying? They plotting because yeah, you're right, you do got the J's on, you do got this on, right? And so when I first came in, I was fighting all the time because it was dudes that had nice stuff, but they knew how to move in style and not join the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of silly, goofy dudes that came from you know, that didn't come from that, but wanted to act like they did. Right. And I couldn't understand why anybody, you know what I'm saying? I couldn't understand why anybody want to act like you from a low income area. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Where you're dealing with gangs and stuff. Like, man, be happy that your parents didn't put you, like, stop claiming something you wasn't in, right? And so absolutely the way that my parents raised me prepared for the Marine Corps. You saw my leadership style. I'm a very direct, blunt person. I don't pull no punches. I wasn't gonna kiss nobody's butt. I didn't care if you liked me or not, because at the end of the day, nobody could ever call me a liar. Mike ever said I didn't do my job, right? And so that's the way I was, and that was a great way to be doing wartime military, right? Like, if you was that kind of person in wartime, I flew through the ranks. I picked up E6 in 5 years, right? But by the time you came in, we started switching back to garrison ops. That kind of stuff wasn't, and that's the reason why I got out, because like Marines like me was not, like, the Marine Corps wasn't for us anymore, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we was raised and trained a certain way, but we was also recruited certain, like, the same kind of people. And so those same kind of people got out because the Marine Corps was literally changing rules and regulations to make us not want to stay in, right? And so you start seeing these dudes who was fake, people who didn't have strong constitutions, right? They didn't want to accept the truth about, you know, if a junior Marine, like when I came in, like if I had a junior Marine tell me, hey, Staff Sergeant, you messing up, I'd be like, what? Or of course, I'd be like, what you say? But if they was like, no, Staff Sergeant, listen to what I'm telling you. Like, I know you think you're doing this right, but like everybody, you lower morale by doing this. I'm going to stop and listen. Right. He gave me an ear to the street because I'm not in the trenches no more, right? So he's giving me some intel that I don't know, because junior Marine's not going to come tell you we unhappy. You know what I'm saying? But so when I came in, there was a feedback. If you was a good leader, that was the feedback loop. If your Marines trusted you enough to come up to you and say, hey, this isn't working, or we got a better idea to do it, that means you're doing something right. They feel comfortable telling you that. But, you know, by the time you came in, it was like, if you went and said that, they was finna run you up the wall. You disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what's wrong with y'all, man? Like, the person being, like, she got integrity. He got integrity, right? Like, right? So, yeah.
Ooh, it's like you said, the military, it almost seems as if it started like restructuring to the point where it was just like, in my opinion, like kicking out like the niggas that I felt like should have stayed in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, the people that they keep to retirement, not for nothing, they make it through, but I feel like they make it through, you know, sucking the green weenie, and it's like they look out for themselves, and that was one of the issues that I had. But one thing I can say, aside from like Staff Sergeant Weems, which she holds a whole like thing in my heart, in my head, on a whole nother level with being a woman. But like one of those like Marine, especially the staff NCOs. Oh shoot, my camera done went out. But it was mother freaking you, because at the end of the day, like, y'all was the ones that was constantly like putting me onto game, like, Grayson, this is the stuff that you gotta do, you know what I'm saying? So that way you don't make your life difficult, because you stuck in this for 4 years, you know?
Yeah. And believe it or not, you and a few other Marines, like, I really felt like you. Do you remember Dimes?
Yep, I do.
Yep, Dimes was another one. Like, y'all two was for sure, because like most of the Marines in my MOS and the ones I was in charge of were not Black Marines, right? And so you and Dimes, I remember specifically because like when I first met you, I was teaching the MCMAP course, right?
Right.
And I remember Miss Smith was teaching it, and like the first few days, you was actually kind of quiet. You know what I'm saying? Like, you kind of, you know, you came in like you do, like you came in, you observed, you did whatever, and then what's the name called you out? I think Cloud or whatever called you out, and he was talking a lot of trash. You know what I'm saying? And he was I remember Cloud had like called you out, right? And it was funny because like, you know, like he was one of them dudes that, you know, he's a pretty boy. You know, he dressed up. He took pride in how he dressed and kind of shoes he wore and all that kind of stuff, right? And so I remember, I told Smith, I was like, hey, man, this might be an unfair fight. You know, it's a female Marine and male Marine, you know, but he was like, nah, man, she can hold her own. I was like, what? He's like, trust me, dog. And so you went in there, you did it. And I was like, oh, she got some hands, you know what I'm saying? So I think we did stand up first. And then he tried to make it sound like his ground game was tight. So you was like, okay, let's go to the ground. And then you beat him, then you whooped him too. And I was like, man, she got him. Right. But then I was like, you know, but you was like really humble. You know what I'm saying? You didn't talk trash. Dude was making all kinds of excuses. You know, he was doing this. He lost, right? But I was like, cool. And then, you know, after that, I rock with you. And then Dimes was the same way. You know, his section was trying to get it, had it in for him. And they even lied to this dude. Like, he'll tell you that, like, I met Dimes because I was coming out the company office, and I saw he got selected for corporate. I was like, oh, man, hey, congratulations. I saw you on the list. And he was like, yeah, but I can't get it. You know, my section state going to withhold my promotion. I was like, they can't withhold it. You already got the selection. Like, if they didn't put, I was like, dude, they didn't put the non-rec in before headquarters Marine Corps made a decision. You already got selected. Then you finna be a corporal, dude.
Right.
And he, what? And I was like, yeah, man, who told you that? And so I was mad because the staff NCOs was lying to him. And so he hold him. He's like, hey, like this blah blah stuff, y'all can't withhold it from me. And he went out to the S1 to go file a complaint about it because the promotion, like, we already passed the first, and they didn't promote this dude. They just didn't go down there and pick his warrant, but they decided they wasn't gonna pick it up. And so I was like, man, go down to S1 and pick it up yourself. I said, bro, go down to S1, pick it up yourself, and then walk over to the first sergeant office and tell me you need to get promoted. First sergeant promotion. So he went and did it. First sergeant sent an email out, hey, we forgot one. We're gonna promote today at 16:30, blah blah. His staff NCOs was livid. Who told you to blah blah? He was like, Staff Sergeant Grose. And when I tell you, these Staff Sergeant Gunnies was coming from the 6th was coming from my head, like, these folks was mad. Why'd you tell him that? Blah blah blah. He was had me at the staff club because why'd you tell him that? Blah blah blah. I was like, listen, man, like, you may be his staff NCOIC, but like, I'm a Staff Sergeant in the Marine Corps, right? Why did you lie to him?
Right.
If you felt he wasn't deserving, then that means you failed your job. You didn't put the non-rec in. But you know why you didn't put the non-rec in? Because you didn't have nothing that was sustainable. You know what I'm saying? So if headquarters Marine Corps say he's going to be a corporal, he's going to be a corporal.
That's true.
My thing was groom him. Why are you mad at me? Go groom him.
Right.
Go groom him to be the NCO you want him to be. You know what I'm saying? And so and ever since then, I used to check on him all the time. You know, like, how's it going? You know, he'd be like, oh, they doing this. I'd be like, man, let me tell you, they can't do this. They can't do that. This order say this. I used to tell you, like, you know, make sure you know. And you was good about the orders. You knew your stuff. Couldn't nobody tell you nothing. You know what I'm saying? When they come to that stuff, you was like, nope, this says this, this says this, this says this. Right? And so, yeah, I really appreciated Marines like y'all because, like, y'all was my litmus test. You know, y'all was my litmus test. Like, you know, even my own Marines, you know, would give me the same kind of feedback. Like, hey, Staff Sergeant, like, we appreciate you having this kind of, you know, this kind of leadership style, this kind of, you know, mentorship where we can be honest. So yeah, man, be honest with me. Like, I don't want nobody lying to me. Right. So, you know, don't feed me no line of crap because I got to know that if something happened, I can trust you, and you got to be able to trust me and not fear me, right? And so that when I came in the Marine Corps in 2002, that's exactly how Marines were taught, like since boot camp. And then somewhere around 2010, 2012, this shit went out the window.
It's crazy because, like, I don't know if it's like that for you. Like, you caught on quick on how to navigate through the Marine Corps just solely from boot camp. Like, I remember the drill instructors we came in, like, I hated all the drill instructors, honestly. Hated every single one of them. Even my senior. That is a whole nother story. But one thing I could say is that them heifers motherfucker taught, you know, like, they put us on the game real quick where, you know, like, the expectation of female Marines and how we're not viewed, you know, nowhere near, you know, equal as to men. The fact that they said, you know, they told us, like, even you got to do better than the males. Like, you have to physically be fit, you know what I'm saying, exceed, you know, on top of your physical training, in addition to the fact that you have to be on top of your mother freaking, you know, like, Marine Corps orders and like the regulations and all that stuff. And at first I used to think that joke was crazy. I'm like, this is too much. This is too much. And then like, fitness wasn't something that I had, like, I enjoyed doing like now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I'm way more fit even after having all the injuries and surgeries now than I was then, because I didn't enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? But when I realized, like, oh shoot, like, Staff Sergeant Weems was right. My drill instructors was right. These female crazy drill instructors was right. Like, when you know your mother freaking stuff, especially on the paper, there's like nothing these niggas can say to you.
Can't say a damn thing. They can't say, and they be mad about it. They be mad about it, right? And I'm gonna tell you, I'm sorry that was your experience and that was your truth, right? Because it wasn't just your truth. I started saying that being true for a lot of female Marines, but I can tell you, like, on both of my grandma graves, when I came in, that was not the freaking case. Like, that wasn't like, I got told from boot camp, like, and I was West Coast, so we didn't even have no females over there. Right. We got told, like, hey, we hit the fleet's gonna be female Marines, and our judges told us, like, those are your sisters, and you treat them like you would treat your sisters, right? And so, like when I met female Marines at units, I didn't look at them. I was a rad band, and it was a combat arms unit, so, like, we always, the whole battalion deployed, right? We had some females there, and even at rad band, like, we looked at females as just like Marines, right? There was no. If it was competitive, it was competitive as Marines. It wasn't like, oh, she's less than me, or she can't know more than me because she's a woman and I'm a male, right? Like, we didn't have that stuff, you know. We didn't have the level of disrespect where male Marines are creating, like, Facebook pages to make fun of female Marines and all this kind of stuff, put pictures of them. You know, I'm gonna tell you something. Yeah, you know what you know how I got onto I got onto that. It made me upset. Do you remember the female career planner that we had?
I do.
Yeah, right. She had a Purple Heart, right, and she had a Combat Axe ribbon. She used to be Motor T. She was a motor, and so she was in Iraq. I remember her because the unit she was with. She was in Iraq. So she's Motor T. They made her. She was a tour gunner. As most Motor T operators, if you ain't driving, you up in the gun, right? And so she was up on the gun, and her Humvee got blown up, right? And she had to get her jaw rebuilt. Her whole bottom jaw was fake, right? That she got a Purple Heart from. She still has scars from getting shot, right? But she still returned fire and did her thing. She had she didn't have a name. She had a name with a V, right, for Valor, right? And so I knew these things about her because her name looked familiar to me, you know. But when they did a road show, what you call them? The monitors did a road show, and they was down on Foster, so all the career players had to go down there, and they're wearing Chucks. And do you know somebody took a picture of her in Chucks and then posted it on that site and was like, look at this female Marine, you know, stolen valor. She didn't earn this.
I remember that.
Yeah, not knowing anything about her.
I remember that.
They just assumed that because she was a female Marine, there's no way she could have been in a combat situation, earned it. And, like, that blew my mind because I was like, these were Marines who never even deployed themselves. Like, this female Marine, she was a sergeant, and the Marines that did it was like Lance Corporals and PFCs, right? Like, Never seen a liquor come as their first duty station. And I remember I was angry for her because I was like when I was in Iraq, we had lioness programs. Like there are areas of Iraq where men were like women only villages. Like there's women only villages there where men can't go in there. Even so, in the military will respect that, and we would send female patrol teams in, right? And some of the women in the villages was down for the cause. Like, hey, I don't like none of y'all because y'all killed my husband. So right. You know what I'm saying? She joined the cause, right? And so for me, it was crazy that like there were actual, you know, Marines who were doing this without even knowing a person.
Right.
You know, and I'm like, where you learn it at?
I mean, I don't know. Boot camp, that's what I had thought it was, but apparently not.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm sorry that was your route, but yeah, like I said, around the time that y'all came in, things was kind of changing. And in 2014, I was like, and mind you, like when I got out, I was selected for warrant officer and gunnery sergeant. Saying I turned both of them jumps down. I was like, nope, don't want them. And that pissed a lot of people off too.
I heard. That's what I wanted to ask you, like, cause.
Yep.
I know you said that you had got out because you noticed like some of the changes, and it seemed like these changes was like kind of encouraging, like, you know, people like yourself to get out. So would you say that the Marine Corps kind of like incentivized like higher, well, I guess the Marine Corps, but would you say that they kind of incentivized like, I don't even want to say higher rank, but like people to almost like not even look out for other people, just to look out for themselves?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. We turned into like we started pushing more paperwork as opposed to like, and I'm not saying you need to haze nobody, but like when I came in, like if you messed up, it wasn't like, I'll give you a perfect example. I'll keep these Marines names out. I'll keep the names out because they end up becoming outstanding Marines, right? But so one of my Marines, perfect example. One of my Marines, right? I was actually in a bit of staff duty. You know, I was down at staff duty, and I got a phone call from the barracks, right? Y'all barracks, right? And they was like, hey, the duty was like, hey, this sergeant so and so, hey, staff sergeant, so I use the duty, the staff, and so I see, you know, duty, the staff duty, and so I want to give you a heads up. He's like, I'm gonna give you a courtesy call because I was in your green belt MAP class. So I'm like, oh, okay, what's up, sergeant? He was like, one of your Marines came back with a bunch of girls. This is a male Marine, and he was like, you know, I was getting their Liberty cards, and he just puked all over the duty desk. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, he's like trashy, drunk. So I was like, all right, I'm on the way over there. So I rolled over to the barracks, and I'm looking for the Marine. I'm like, you need to get out. The duty desk is full of puke. Like, it's disgusting, right? I'm like, man, don't clean it. So the duty and the A duty, y'all got to clean it up. He don't come down here and get it. So I'm looking for him. Dude in the room passed out. He's not moving. So I'm like, who is with? He gave me the name. So I get the Marines that y'all clean this shit up, right? They clean it up. Yes, that's how they clean it all up. I was like, hey, tomorrow morning, see y'all in the lounge, 7 o'clock, 07 on everybody in the lounge that was out tonight. Okay, good to go. Asked the dude, I was like, man, did you log it? He's like, I'm not gonna log it, staff, so I'll look out for you. You know, so I was like, all right, bet, I appreciate you, Sergeant. You know what I'm saying? Because he should have logged it. Like my Marine should have been Monday morning. He should be getting in trouble for underage drinking, right? So, but the sergeant, he was like, you know, you looked out for. He's like, your MAP class is the best. I think you're a good staff NCO. I'm not gonna log it. Taken care of, right? So the next morning, Sunday morning, I'm at the barracks at 7 o'clock. They sit in the lounge. I'm in there, you know, talking to them, what's going on. They telling me all this stuff, what they did, how it went down. And it was some female Marine's birthday, and he liked her. So, you know, he was trying to, but she's old enough to drink, you know, but he not. But he was trying to impress her. So he was trying to keep up with everybody else. And he started drinking, you know, but dude didn't really drink like that.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, so I talked to other Marines, I kicked him out, but I'm really concerned about my Marine. So I was like, hey, check it out, man. I was like, check it out, devil. I was like, next Friday, the safety brief, you gonna give the safety brief, right? I'm gonna let Master Guns know you giving the safety brief. I was like, and I want to see that PowerPoint presentation. I want to see it by Thursday so I can proof it. Right. He was like, yes, Staff Sergeant, right? So the dude thought that was it. So then Monday morning came, we went to work. We gotta get off from work, you know. I dismissed everybody. I was like, well, what are you gonna do? And he was like, I was finna go back to the bench, said dismissed. Like, no, man, you're not dismissed, buddy. I got some work for you to do, man. So I had him up in the office, you know what I'm saying, taking trash out, clean up basic Dream Marine stuff, you know, clean up the workspace, field day in the office. So Tuesday I did the same thing. At the end of work, everybody go home. Not you, buddy. You got work to do. I took him down to Master Guns. Off Master Guns, you can go home. This devil dog gonna clean you in the colonel's office up. Master Guns like, oh, okay. He's like, what do you do? I was like, Master Guns, don't even worry about it. He's like, bet. He told the colonel, let's get the hell up out of here. Right? They gone. Right? So Wednesday come, I hear whispering. He mad about it. Right? Other Marines come to him like, yeah, Staff Sergeant, he mad, blah, blah. He said, you a fuck boy, blah, 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 all this stuff. He mad, right? So I took all the Marines outside, the monument that's right there in front of the division building. I took him right over to the hill. And I was like, hey, check it out. I said, I brought y'all out here. It's fresh air. We're going to talk about a few things. So I called him out, Lance Corporal so-and-so. Get your ass right here in the middle. Right. Right. And I said, tell, because nobody knew what he did. I said, tell your peers what you did. What happened on Saturday. So he told them. Right. And then I told them, I said, and this what he been doing to make it back up. And I said, now the reason why you're doing this is because I said, because those SSCT chiefs, so those guys deploy. Right, to each field exercise, right? One team's out, one team stay back. So I told him, I said, if you got NJPd, man, one team gonna be down because you're in trouble on restriction, which means that another team got to stay out twice, right? So I told him, I said, so this is what we can do. I said, we can walk down. I said, if you're mad about it, we can walk down to First Sergeant office. You can tell them what you did. We can start the page 11. I said, but I know First Sergeant gonna push up to the CO, gonna say he wants you NJPd. You going battalion level. You can take them chevrons off. I said, or you can freak up, right? Shut your mouth and do this extra duty and mature and grow up and get something out of it, right? And so I said, what you want to do, paperwork or you want to shut up? He's like, I want to shut up, Staff Sergeant. I was like, all right, well, then shut up, right? And so he did extra duties and he did the safety brief on Friday. So when he got through the safety brief on Friday, I said, hey, man, I talked to him. I said, hey, what did you learn from the last course? So what did you learn from this? Tell me what you learned. And of course, he gave me the whole Jay-Z did top buckle. I'm never going to underage drink again. I'm going to have integrity and justice and judgment and, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, if that's what you tell me, man, you didn't learn nothing. I said, what you should have learned. I said, because you lying to me right now, man. I said, the first time you go off this base again and it's a girl you like and she drinking, guess what you're going to do? You're going to pick that. You're going to start drinking too. I said, what you should have learned is that if you can't handle your liquor, then you need to stop, right? And number two, if you know you can't handle your liquor, when you come up in here, stop running your mouth for the duty desk, turn your car in and get up to your room, man. Right. You know what I'm saying? I told myself, you got to be smart about the stuff you're doing, right? Don't sit here and tell me you're not going to do something again, because I said you doing exactly what your peers in college doing right now. The ones that went to college, you came to Marine Corps. So I don't fault you for that. You're a young man. You learning. But, be smart about this stuff. And then he was like, oh, so you're not telling me I can't underage drink? I said, you're not supposed to be underage drinking, but I'm not going to be ignorant enough to believe that you're not doing it. You know what I'm saying? Because I did it, and so that Lance Corporal ended up becoming Marine of the Quarter, winning Meritorious Corporal, right? And he a Chief Warrant Officer too right now in the Marine Corps.
Look at him, all squared away.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? Like when I came in, that's the way we did. It wasn't about, oh, let me write this person up and ruin their career, because the Marine Corps is a career. It's your career, but it's your livelihood, right? Like we can't punch a clock and go home and be done with it. Like, you wear PT gear on field day after hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's 24/7. And so, but the Marine Corps got away from that. They got away from that kind of mentality. It was like, oh, they did something, write them up. And so, that when we switched to that, where it was all about taking care of yourself and making sure you look good and screwing your junior Marines over and scoring points with the company and battalion officer for how many Marines you write up, because that makes you like you're a good leader should have these many write-ups. And your Marine should, when I had these staff in the staff club bragging about I don't give anybody above a 4.3. What? There's a Marine Corps order on pro cons. If your Marine actually meets the 4.5, why would you give them a 4.3? Because you want to be like, I'm making my max 4.3. That's just stupid. That's not what this order says. You're overthinking it, dude. The Marine Corps is easy for dummies. Everything's in black and white. Right. You read it. It tells you what to do. She never got in trouble. She did her work on time. Little to no guidance. You can give her increased responsibilities. 4.5, 4.5. Boom. Easy day. They want to sit there and be like, well, I don't know. There's one time when she first checked in, she didn't know where S1 was, so I had to guide her down there. Dude, that was a year and a half ago. You know what I'm saying? But dude, you know what I'm saying? That's the kind of stuff they was doing, right? And so for me, that coupled with the fact that combat veterans weren't really, it was just different for us. All the people that was in charge, I started seeing our battalion sergeant major had no campaign ribbons. But this dude want to talk to me about leadership. Dude, get out of my face with this. You know what I'm saying? I'm stressing. I'm teaching a MCMAP program. And when it's junior Marines, they cool me running y'all around in boots and utes, you know what I'm saying, and have y'all out there punching, you know, strike pads and stuff till your knuckles bleed and exhausted, right? And then give you like 15 minutes to get chow and still get to work. But then when the staff is, I got the battalion Sergeant Magee call me, asked me, can I do a gentleman's course for E9s? And I was like, what is a gentleman's course? I don't know what that word means, right? And that's exactly what I said. I was like, Sergeant Magee, I don't know what that word means. He said, come on, Staff Star, you know what I mean? I was like, no, actually, I don't. And he was like, you know, we don't need to be doing this and this and this. We don't care about we just need to be doing the techniques only. And I said, Sergeant Major, if I have a class full of E9s that literally, you sent me your Marines, you approved the program, like the junior Marines, you was okay with them doing this stuff. Right. Why would I give you the same bills as one of your junior Marines if you didn't go through the same thing as them? You sent them to me. Like, battalion, you asked for a MCMAP program. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, like, I was like, that's not fair. That's not justice. That's not just at all, right? Do you know them dudes send me PTAD, Alpha Company, Foster for 6 months? You know what I'm saying?
They wanted that gentleman's course.
They want that gentleman's course, right? Right. But then I came back. I came back and battalion had a mandate, right? Like, if you this rank, you can't have this belt. And it was all because it was massive guns walking around there. Sergeant's walking around with a gray belt, but they mad it's a Lance Corporal or Corporal walking around with a black belt. Well, this person earned it. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, they signed up for class after class after class. They came in here, they did the drills. You know what I'm saying? They sweated their butts off. They bled their butts off. They did these okras, did all this stuff, right? I'm not got no favoritism to nobody. There's a Marine Corps order right here that says if Tiara does these things, she rates a black belt. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's super easy. And you know, so everything started getting over. You know, it was too much unnecessary thinking. So for me, it was just, you know, I was like, yeah, it's time for me to hang the hat up. It just wasn't. There was no place for a Marine like me in that Marine Corps anymore. The Marine Corps had changed. So
I think it's like so interesting you say that, because I think by the time I met you, you probably was like around your 8-year mark, right? At least.
No, when you met me, you got there in what, 2010 or 11?
Yeah, 11ish.
Yep. So when you met me, oh, you're right. Yeah, I was at about 8-year mark. You're absolutely right. Yep. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Nail on the head. I was at 8-year mark. Yep.
And because I had talked to another like Marine, but it's crazy because she was Okie before me, but I think she like got there maybe a year before me, but we was relatively in the same rank. And it was like crazy talking to her afterwards because she stayed in long enough to get staff, but I think she said like she had like to force herself out type of thing because her body was just like falling apart from like, you know, all the stuff that they had her doing. Because, I mean, not for nothing, people be sleeping on those females, but she was those females who had no breast, went and got some motherfreaking boobs and was still motherfreaking out PTing people. It was motherfreaking crazy. Because I remember, like, some of the black dudes, they used to clown her and they used to call her shelf titties because she went from nothing to, you know, having boobs or whatever. But she was, like, a beast at PT. But she was saying, like, you know, with her constantly working out the way she was doing, and then she was barely having time to, like, eat, you know, stay hydrated. Like, she was telling me, like, she was having issues, like, kidneys, you know, failing and all that. I was like,
she was going hard. She was going hard.
The junk was crazy. And then she was telling me, like, because we were talking about, like, our experiences. And, of course, because we was under the first unit or, like, first duty station together. And she was, like, explaining to me. Because at first, I couldn't really stand her. But it wasn't, like she did stuff to me. It's like one of them things where it's like, I don't know if you've noticed that, but in the Marine Corps, it seemed like they used to pit the females up against each other.
Oh, yeah, all the time. Yep, all the time. Yep.
Yeah, so it was like almost impossible to even like develop a legitimate like friendship with female. I was shocked that I developed one with my wife, honestly, because it was like so skim. But she was saying that she felt that our leadership like placed that division like between us, because I remember there was a couple of times that she was like, in my opinion, like unfairly like too much of an NCO towards me, especially when it came to that point where like I was overweight to where they was like, I don't know if you remember the whole BCP, they was like trying to figure out if they were going to put me on BCP and stuff. And
but you weren't really overweight. It's just, I know.
It's just black people standards, but.
Yep.
And so she used to be like really, really hard especially on the females with weight standards and PT, because that, you know, the standard that she held herself to and stuff. And it was crazy, but I couldn't stand her. And she was like telling me, like, you know, she wished that she actually sat down and like talked to her junior Marines. Cause I think she picked up corporal right before she had, you know, PCS or what, something like that. But yeah, I couldn't stand her at first, but it's like once we actually got to talk, it's like, damn, like it almost seemed like you being raised by those like them bad parents where the parents pit the siblings up against each other type of ordeal.
It was, and I will say from my observation, it was for the female corps of the Marine Corps, even male staff NCOs will be like I mean, there was some female staff NCOs that I will like steer clear of. I was like, man, she brutal, right? Like, because I did feel like female Marines are always hard on other female Marines, right? But there was like a system in place that like kind of made them like you eat your own, right? And so I used to say the same thing, like, man, I don't know. Like I used to be like, I would hate to be a female Marine because the female NCOs and staff NCOs was like brutal. Like, I mean, things that I was just like, man, what's wrong with you? Like, calm down. You know what I'm saying? Like, let them breathe, you know, and yeah, so I fully understand exactly what you're talking about, because I used to see it, you know, and I remember in 2012 when they started pitting male Marines against female Marines, which I felt was unjust when they started that whole, like, it was and this is another reason why I remember I told you, I grew up with 3 sisters. I've grown up with nothing but respect for women. Like, my mama always taught me, like, you don't strike no woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can walk away, you walk away from my mom. My mom used to tell me, unless she, you know, beating the brakes, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do to protect yourself. But, you know, like, I've always respected women. I don't call them out their name unless they deserve it, right? But it's real hard for me. It's real hard for me to call a woman a bitch. Like, I think I can count on one hand the times I've ever called. It's probably 3 times my entire life I've ever called a female like a bitch, right? And they actually earned that. Like, you know, I'm sure they earned it. And so, like, for me, I thought that when it was made public that there was like sexual assaults going on in the Marine Corps that was being buried. You know what I'm saying? Officers getting away with stuff, females getting pushed to other units to try to hide it, but nothing happened to the males who did it. And these weren't just like allegations; these were like proven, like evidence it happened. And the command was like, oh, but he's a good guy overall. So, you know, here's what we're going to do. We're going to move her to this unit. We're going to give y'all some separation. You got to deal with her. But nothing happened to the guy. So when they came out, Marine Corps was like, no more. And they started making us go to the movie theater and getting these briefings, all this kind of stuff. Yep. Right? I remember, at least I won't say the whole Marine Corps, that command that we were at, I remember the messaging to the males was like, as a staff NCO, like, we got called in, male staff NCOs that called into Sergeant Magee's office to get told, like, hey, be careful out there, man. If you got it, like, specifically you had a female Marine under your charge, which I did. I had a female NCO, right? Specifically, hey, man, this stuff coming out, you need to be careful. You know, don't have her in the room, don't counsel her by herself. Have somebody in there, blah 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 blah. But it was almost like, you know, don't trust them, don't believe them, you know, like. And so I started seeing male Marines treating their own female like subordinates that way, right? As if, like, you know, like they had the plague, steering clear of them. You know what I'm saying? Steering clear of them. You know, like, you know. And so for me, I was like, what's unfair is if I'm doing pro-con counselings and all my male Marines are walking in my office, I'm having one-on-ones. Then when she walk out, hold up. Let me run down the hall and find a female staff and say, okay, stand in this room with me. Like, how's she supposed to feel like she part of the team?
Right.
And she even did nothing. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, for me, I was like, this is just, you know, excuse my friend, this is a shit show. The Marine Corps was turned into a shit show, right? Like, just all these kind of things, all these variables was unnecessary. But, you know, these were the people that were coming in charge were the people, you know, who dodged. In my personal opinion, a lot of them have found ways to go and be builders to circumvent going to combat. And, you know, I'm not that combat was the end all. I talk about it a lot because that was like my whole Marine Corps career. Like, it's 12 years of war, right? Like, I joined in 02, got out in 14, and literally it was like the entire war, right? And so I deployed. I think I deployed Iraq like 4 times, Afghan once, you know. And so, but for me, like, people who had that experience understood that, like, what mattered and what didn't matter, right? And the Marine Corps started focusing on things that really didn't really matter. Like people who didn't know their jobs was getting promoted just because they could run fast. You know what I'm saying? They could run fast. They got a haircut. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, but this dude don't know his MOS. You know what I'm saying? So you know what I'm saying? So if a staff doesn't want to come and tell me, oh man, like stop talking good about Tiara, you know, she don't know blah. I mean, you know, she don't do this, she ain't gonna BCP. I'm like, that's cool, but my understanding is like she drive trucks better than half them dudes over there. You know what I'm saying? Like, and she knows some maintenance. You know what I'm saying? She got all these mouths. So like, what are you talking about? You know, like it's a big, you know, it was silliness. It was all silliness.
It's crazy that you said that it was like, it wasn't like that when you was a junior Marine. And I feel like it's crazy to me because it's like, I mean, granted, you wasn't serving in like the 70s, 60s, or 50s.
Right.
But yep. Like, because as you know, like the Marine Corps, it moves so slow with like updating with laws and all that stuff. Yep. So like serving in the 90s or early 2000s is almost like serving in, you know, like the 80s yep. and such.
Yep. And that's mainly because like you know, military time, like time is not the same. Right. So like I always think about the fact that like when I was a staff sergeant, people was like, you know, when I was a staff sergeant, I was 22 years old, right? I was a staff sergeant, right? But Marines were like, oh, you old staff sergeant, you can't do this. I'm like, I'm only 22. You know what I'm saying? Like, right? But this 18-year-old dude's like, oh, you old, you can't do this. Where you can't at? Right? It's because like we're associated rank with an age, yeah. But also when you think about it, it makes sense because you can retire at 38. So for us, when we see somebody that's 38, we're like, man, you old, right? But then when you get out in the real world, you're like 38, man, this dude still got another like 40 years of life left. Yeah. you know, and so yeah, like the Marine Corps is slow for policy, but we do adjust. Like I feel like every 5 years the Marine Corps changes because the majority, if you think about the ranks, the bottom ranks make it the most in the Marine Corps, right? So that's all the 17, 18 years old. So they're bringing these ideologies in, right? And so because they're inexperienced, that's going to change the climate, right? The problem is that like we had staff NCOs that was being put in charge who were immature themselves. Oh yeah. Right? We had staff NCOs that was more worried about sleeping with female Marines. Like, are you kidding me? You know what I'm saying? Like, and like you, I'm saying this because like, you know, do you know how much stuff I found out after I got out and left division? I was talking to people. Oh yeah, you know, I'm seeing newspaper, First Sergeant Magee in jail because, you know, he raping girls at an ROTC school. I don't know if you remember Magee. I do. Right?
I remember that man vividly.
Right, with his permed waves, right? Yep. And he tried to tell me there wasn't no perm. I'm like, man, you got to kid your head, bro.
Oh yeah.
right.
But funny. Oh my goodness.
Right. But you know, he in the brig because he retired, went to go work at some school, ROTC instructor, high school. He over there like, you know, having sex with the high school girls, you know. And so I was like, oh my God, did y'all hear about this? And it's dudes that was in coming. They was like, oh yeah, man, he been doing that. I was like, what? And they was like, man, you know, he had like 2 or 3 female Marines like pregnant. And I was like, at division? They was like, yeah, man. Two of them he took out to get abortions. One, the girls wouldn't get it, so they kicked her off the camp. She was working in camp operations with me.
That is wild.
And I didn't even know who got her. I didn't know this was a dude that got her pregnant. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like these people. But again, this dude's a first sergeant. Yep. You know what I'm saying? And all of the people like him was in them kind of positions. Yep. Majors, captains. Yep. You know what I'm saying? Like these sick people, right? And they're in charge of people. And they're sitting there kicking people out, ruining careers, ruining lives. And so like when I heard this, I was like, my gut feeling was, my spidey sense was right. It was time. It was time for me to get out. Like I kept telling people, I was like, man, I feel like the people in charge, like right now in the Marine Corps, is just like scummy. Yep. You know, like it didn't feel right. And you know, some people's like, oh man, you know, blah blah blah. You got to stick with it. You had 12 years. It's only 8 months. Like, nah, man, I don't care about no. I'm not gonna do that. You know. And so, like, yeah, like it's exactly what we thought it was. Like the things that you was complaining about, the things that you saw and people told you was crazy, make you try to make you feel like you're a crazy woman. You know what I'm saying? Because they was doing that. Oh, yeah. The things that Don was speaking out against, they try to make it like he was a, you know, insubordinate male Marine that's just, you know, trying to do these folks is not crazy, man. Y'all was seeing, like, you know, because y'all wasn't part of the bullshit. Right. The Marines who's part of the bullshit But you're like, oh, but I like First Sergeant Magee. He a cool guy, right? And the girls are like, oh, he's dreamy. But people like you was like, no, that dude's sick. You know, exactly. Right.
I couldn't stand him. Every time I seen him, it's like you said, the Spidey senses kicking. It's like creep alert, get away from this nigga. Get away.
Yeah. The dude was too fake for me. He was I call him balloon fast first sergeant. Like, you know, make sure his hair was good. Always in the gym, but couldn't run for nothing. The muscles was just for show. The man couldn't do more than like 5 pull-ups. You know what I'm saying? Like,
wide as a mother freaker. It's just wide.
Yes. And of course, everybody's like, oh, he in perfect shape and blah, blah. I'm like, man, get out of here, dude. The dude ain't even function.
I could imagine how slow he run.
I didn't know he was a creep like that. Like, he will only have females working in the first sergeant office.
I remember they like sent me in his office, and now that's when I'm telling you, stuff caught on quick, because I was one of those motivators. I was like, I'm gonna join the Marine. Well, no, I lied. In the beginning, I was not a motivator. I was pissed. I was like, I wanted to go to college, but my dad is on some. This nigga rather send me in the Marine Corps than sign the paper for me to go to college. This is crazy. So I was pissed. But then after, you know, like going through boot camp and stuff, I hated boot camp. But then, you know how as soon as boot camp over, you go through, it's like this surge of like energy. You're like, oh, I'm going to stay in, I'm going to retire, I'm going to become a Sergeant Major, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. That junk didn't last, I feel like, no more than like 2 weeks. It was like drained out of me the moment that I got to that mother freaking, I think it was like, is it MCT or MOVOC? One of them. It's
MCT, yeah.
Yeah. When I started like catching on, like, cause that's when I got like more access to like male instructors, and so there was like that interaction with MCT, the males and females. When I started seeing like from there, I was like, oh, I don't like this. Like, I don't like this. Like, you either a slut or you a lesbian, and
that's crazy.
Yeah, and then
like, you just get put into a bucket right away.
Yeah, and it started as soon as like boot camp was like, I knew boot camp. There were some people I wanted to hit, but I was like, I just gotta make it through here. Once I get past here, you know, I'm good. I am good. No, MCT brought it out of me. Like, I got to Okie, and they was just like, we gotta get Grayson out of here.
But it's because you was like, you like me, you was like, these folks is like, you was seeing the goofiness, like these folks is goofy. Like how did you make it through life?
How?
You know what I'm saying?
How are you in the military? Like, how are you not in prison? Like, some of that stuff was wild. Like, the staff NCOs, because some of the same staff NCOs that were throwing people under the rug for stuff, these niggas was like full blown like gangbangers, you know what I'm saying? Drug dealers, all types of wild stuff. But I had caught on quick with my chief foreign officer, because aside from all those other stuff, but that nigga made my eyes open when he said, he was like, Grayson, I'm cool with Colonel Kuhn at the time. I think he was the colonel. He was like, I'm cool with him, and I'm so cool with him that I don't even need to prove anything. I can just go to him and tell him that I want to have you like battalion NJPd or whatever the freak. And he will go with it because like we on that type of level. And he was talking to me about that like after he had found out, you know, me and my wife was together. Cause his whole like demeanor and everything changed once he found out that I was gay. Or in a relationship with a female, because I mean, even you would probably know, like, I didn't even classify it as like gay. I was just like, I like both. It's just y'all niggas is clowns. I'm not dating none of y'all, and I'm definitely not losing no virginity to you scrubs. Like,
it is crazy because like dudes was mad at you for that. Like listen, I knew you from MCMAP, and it was grown staff NCOs. I used to go to the staff club every Friday. Me and Smith used to go down every Friday and drink the bar down and go home, right? And so it was staff NCOs in there. Yeah, man, Chief. I'm like, who y'all talking about, man? What staff is that? I'm like, nah, man, to my Grace. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, dude, she a junior Marine. Why you looking at her like that? You know what I'm saying? Right? But there was dudes that was mad. Like, oh, yeah, I heard she not letting no dudes hit though, you know, blah, blah, blah. Who'd you hear this from? Lance Grove, so-and-so. Wait a minute. So you know what I'm saying? Like, Gunny, are you listening to yourself, Gunny? Like, are you listening to yourself? Right? Like,
Oh my
you
goodness.
try to get with this Lance Corporal, another Lance Corporal, until she let anybody here, and you sit in the staff club talking about it. You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? Like
Clowns.
clowns. So like, and I used to be sitting there going home thinking like, I was thinking going home like, I don't blame her. Like, look at these lames.
This is lame. Oh my God.
But and then when I heard about you and Frank, oh my God. When I tell you there was like a meeting in the staff club about it because dudes was mad because I guess you know both of you, like people have been trying to talk to both of y'all, right? But then when y'all like Wonder Twin Powers united and and it was like lockdown, like not possible, like the dudes' heads just exploded.
Oh,
like,
I know. We lost some friendships over our relationship. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's see exactly. That it's like you left high school to be an adult and you got put right back in high school.
You see what I'm saying? And I didn't even go through stuff like this in high school. Like I was just like, this is crazy.
It's too much drama.
Like y'all older than I ain't never go through this kind of like it was crazy. And I went through my share of drama in high school, but that was something else. And it's like you said, it's like because there were some people that you would meet and you'd be like, this nigga is so cool. And I'd be so sad when I find out that, like yourself, when you were married, and it's not in the sense of like linking with you, it's like, because I've always found myself, well, I won't say always, but a lot of times, and I understand with the climate of the military and with infidelity, you know, like spouses be like very cynical of like, friendships forming, especially between like a man and a woman type of thing. And so I used to be so pissed because I'm like, damn, Grose is cool. And then there was a couple of, I'd be like, these niggas are so cool. They got wives, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I ain't trying to, you know, because I know how some of that is. And I had a friend where I felt like me and my wife, we hung out with him every day. The nigga was just so cool. But his wife, she never really like met us and her interaction with us. Her husband has a past, and I get it. So she was just mixing stuff, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, like
you know what's crazy? I've been really. I want to tell you some real quick. This story real quick. I've been really blessed, right? Because that was one of my biggest fears in the Marine Corps, and I got really blessed early. So I was, you know, I got married and I was checking into Pendleton. And the day I checked in at Pendleton, at first Rad been like, I'm at Alphas. I got my wife in the car and my son's like 3 months old, right? We ain't got nowhere to live. I just came from base housing and they was like, yeah, we got a wait list. It's like 6 months, so you need to find somewhere to go off base. And by the way, in Cali, your BAH as a Lance Corporal is like, you know, $1,200, but apartments cost like $1,800, $1,900, right? So I'm like, oh, I'm screwed, right? Like 1-bedroom apartments, right? So I go check in with the company. First sergeant, I got my SRB, I'm in Alphas and stuff. And this dude was like, he was like, okay, you know, Lance Corporal, blah, blah. He's like, so how do you feel about Muse? And this was like 2005, right? And I just came from Iraq in 2004, right? And so he was like, how do you feel about a Muse? And I was like, what do you mean how do I feel about it first? I was like, what do you think about him? I was like, I don't know anything. I don't know too much about him. First sergeant, like I never been on one. He's like, cool, you going on one in 6 weeks. And y'all deployed, y'all going to go do the invasion of Anbar province. And I was like, what? Right? And I was like, first of all, I don't have a house yet for my wife and stuff. He's like, you going on a MU in 6 weeks, right? So I had to walk out. I had to walk out to the car and tell my wife that. I was like, hey, like I'm deployed in 6 weeks, and she was like, live it, right? And so we're living off base, and I got attached to the MU, and I'm doing workups. So I get put on a duty, and my duty is I'm on A duty in the barracks, and my duty in CO is this female sergeant named Ashley Sadlich, right? So Sergeant Sadlich. So I'm sitting there, but she didn't have a car, but I did. So she, you know, she one of the people. She grew up in Oregon, one of those people that like one of those states where public transportation is actually reliable. So they don't have licenses, right? And so she was like, "Hey, Lance Corporal, I want to go to the other side of the base to get some Starbucks. Can I drive your car?" I was like, "Yeah, but you got to bring me some Burger King back." She was like, "Deal." So she drives my car. I don't know if you've been on Pendleton. It's like huge, right? Yeah. So I'm on Delmar. She drives over the main side, right, to go to the Starbucks. So on her way back, some lady like sees this white girl, right, driving my car. Mind you, I'm in the barracks. I'm not even in the car, right? Sees a white girl driving my car. Calls, like this lady just happened to be a friend of mine, calls my wife. and was like, "Hey, do you know where your husband is?" My wife, yeah, my wife like, yeah, he's got A duty, he's got barracks duty today. You know, he's in barracks, blah blah. She like, no, he ain't. I just seen the white girl driving his car, and listen to this. When I looked in there, he leaned the seat all the way back, so I couldn't see. I saw right. I'm not even in there, right? So my wife calls my cell phone going off. Right? Like, I can't trust you, blah, blah. You already do it. Like, wait a minute, what's going on? Time out. What's going on? Right? So she told me, like, so-and-so called me and told me this, and you lied, and da-da-da. So I was like, look, I said, well, first of all, I'm mad for two reasons right now. Number one, because I got accused of my job. I said, but number two, you tell me it's a nigga in my car? Because I'm thinking, like, somebody, it had to be another black dude in the car then. She told me she in Starbucks, she off with a dude in my whip. Right? So I told my wife, I was like, look, but I said, it's easy to solve the first one. Call the barracks duty phone. It's a hard line. If I'm in the car with her, I can't answer it, right? So she called the barracks duty phone, and I'm on the cell phone with it. And I picked the phone up, you know, barracks, blah blah blah, A duty NCO, Lance Corporal Grose speaking. How have you, sir, ma'am, right? And she was like, oh man, I was like, I'm really right here at this barracks at Delmar, right? And so that for us, like when I came home the next day, like we had a conversation about it, and we agreed that like, you know, she understood that there's females in the Marine Corps, right? And I told her, so I said, yes, I wanted some food. She was going to pay for it. I had to let her drive my car. Like, I didn't care, right? But she understood the relationship of, like, I'm going to have to interact with female Marines, right? It didn't happen a second time. My twin sister, like, we got moved into base housing. My twin sister came to visit because I was getting ready to deploy, right? My wife left to go see her folks. And so my sister was at the base housing house with me. So my sister was like, hey, let me stay here. I'm going to go wash your car. Okay, cool. My sister, blood twin sister, right, out there washing the car. This lady across the street sees her, calls my wife's cell phone, right? It's a black girl with blue contacts in her eyes. My sister's eyes are blue for real, right? Because I found it's Native Americans, right, and black. Yo, it's a black girl across the street at your house with blue contacts in, washing your husband's car in a bikini. My sister ain't even in no bikini. This stuff's just getting exaggerated, right? So then my wife called me and was like, she's like, your sister must be there, huh? I was like, yeah, how'd you know? She was like, yeah, some lady across the street called and said a black girl with blue eyes washed your car in a bikini. I was like, you get it. You know, so I've been blessed enough that like because of those kind of like silly situations, like any female, like I got female best friends, my wife has never been jealous or intimidated by them. You know, like she doesn't form an opinion like something must be going on because she just know like I'm not that, you know, I'm not that kind. I even told before, I was like, look, if I ever want to chill you, I'm just gonna ask you for a divorce. I'm not gonna creep around and do that kind of stuff because it's wasting your time. Right. Right. But I've also like never had a desire to do that, you know. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like I've had female Marines that I was friends with that when they start dating dudes, it's the same thing as true in reverse, right? Dudes be like, you know, looking like, oh, what's going on? Y'all must have did something. And like, no, dude, we just happen to be the same rank in the same gun club. You know what I'm saying?
It's bad. Like I feel like it's because of like people. I mean, in general, people just be out here having sex. Like that's just what it boils down to. And then on top of the fact that people be in whole relationships having sex with people that they not in relationships with. So it
and then one of them is lying.
Yeah,
it's the worst. You know, like I mind my business. If both people know the truth of both sides of the story, they're okay with it. Then hey, it is what it is, right? But it's worse when they be lying. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, I ain't married, I ain't got no kids, and they in a whole relationship with this other chick. They got a girlfriend, and she don't even know this dude married for real. Like,
I had this homie that I had met when I got to Pendleton. We was cool, but I know, like, because most of my relationships, aside from you and a few others, but majority of my relationships with dudes, like, I meet them from them trying to get on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we became cool because our friend zone you know what I'm saying? It's just, it wasn't happening in the military. It's just, it wasn't happening. And so, but he eventually married this female, and it's crazy because they had a contract marriage, right? They had it set up. She's like, I'll marry you, you know what I'm saying? I know you trying to get the money, the BAH. I just want to go to school for free. That was their whole little setup, yes.
Okay, like a real contract marriage. Like that was the...
Yeah. So it's crazy because the nigga moved her out there to California. He's from New York, like Brooklyn or something. He moved the lady from Brooklyn. And it's crazy because like at the time, I think she was bisexual, but she was also a dancer or something like that.
Okay.
So they're married, and at the time, like you said, California is expensive. So we was roommating. Like G and I is together living with this dude and his wife. You know.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that nigga just like, I think it was the day his wife pulled up there, but he just sat in the chair. And he was drinking, but he tilted them glasses off at me, and he was like, Grayson, don't you try to mess with my wife. And I was just like, Nico, what? And he was like, I already know, because he was like, you like girls, and my lady used to like girls, and I'm not playing these games. I'm like,
are you like, I got a whole girlfriend over here, you know what I'm saying?
Dude, I don't want your lady. And the whole time he was, doing his thing, because they wasn't even like really together in the beginning. He was doing his thing, but they ended up, how those contract marriages, they get messy because they end up actually catching feelings, but there's all this damage done. It was another freaking hot mess. But yeah, that was one of the issues. It was like finding like legitimate friendships. Like, I thank God for my wife. I thank God for you. I thank God for, Staff Sergeant Weems, and especially Staff Sergeant Weems, because Staff Sergeant Weems was like that big sister, especially because a lot of the stuff that I was dealing with, she was also dealing with. Yeah, especially when it came to like the weight thing. The only difference is that hers was attached to her pregnancies. Like, she was fresh, had given birth, and these people was just like, come on, PT, you got to be PT ready. And so she like educated me to a lot of stuff, but at the same time, I don't know. It's like you said, once you realize that these niggas is just clowns, like there is like the people that is in power is just as clownish as, these immature, the people at the bottom. My eyes was just like, okay, I'm done. 'Cause like I said, with my chief warrant officer, once he made that comment, and I was just like, damn, this nigga really can't. And then he did. Like, that's why I got NJPd. Like, it was crazy. He was mad at me I really think he was mad at me because people said, like, Grayson, come to think of it, the way he favored you, he probably had a little thing for you. And I ain't think nothing of it because he was ugly, old, bald-headed white man.
Yep, I know exactly who he was. I know who he was, yeah. Because Gunny Johnson couldn't stand him either.
I don't know. He couldn't stand him. Gunny Johnson was out for himself though.
Yeah, he was. I mean, dude was trying to be a first sergeant though, right? Like, I felt bad. I messed with Johnson because he had an agenda. Like, the dude always had an agenda, right? But I'm gonna tell you something about Rashad Johnson. That dude does not believe in paperwork. Like if Marines, like, he was not a fan of like getting Marines NJPd or any of that kind of stuff. And I used to see this dude in first office like arguing against like people getting in trouble that the chief warrant officer wanted like written up or NJP. Like, I used to see him in it because he was a company gunny,
right? So
he would go up in there and wait till the chief warrant officer leave and be like, "Hey, first sergeant, we're not doing that shit." You know what I'm saying? He would. I was a platoon sergeant. I used to see him. And he's like, yeah, he's like, yeah, he wanted NJP's person. I talked first sergeant down. They'll get the person 6105 or a punitive letter of caution or page 11, right? And so I seen some Marines coming in and be mad about it. Like, I'm gonna get this page 11. I'm like, dude, you was fit to get NJP, bro. These folks asked for you to get battalion level NJP. You had no idea. That's why I rocked with Johnson. Like, now, you right though. That dude definitely had his own agenda. He was out for himself. You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah. Whatever made him look good. But I will say that when it came to taking care of Marines, at least from an administrative standpoint, company, battalion type stuff, that dude was like, he did keep a lot of Marines out of trouble. Now, how he was in the motor pool and to his actual Marines, completely different story, right? But when he was up there, he was and Colonel Kuhn liked him. When he was up there, he was all about keeping junior Marines out of trouble. But this dude, when I tell you, I wish he was a fly on the wall. This dude used to go out of his way to get staff SCOs in trouble. Like, I used to laugh my
the first sergeant?
No, Johnson did.
Oh, I'm not surprised because he, like I said, Gunny Johnson, he was a like you said, like he was okay, but that nigga was selfish.
Yeah, but he from Jersey though. He from Philly. He a Philly dude. Like, come on.
That nigga,
like, are you surprised?
Selfish.
He a Philly dude. Are you surprised though? You know what I'm saying? Like, you from Rochester, you from the East Coast, y'all. You know, you know how Philly dudes are. You know what I'm saying? They all selfish like that. They all are. I don't care what they say. Like, they worse than New York dudes be selfish, but Philly dudes is on a special type of selfishness.
Right.
Like
I mean, I can't sit here and say if I was in his position, I would have risked my own career. You know what I'm saying? I like to think that I would, but I don't know. I probably would have did the same thing he did. Looked out for myself, because why ruin, you know?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think you do it because to me, the people who aren't willing to do that is because they're afraid of what's left if they lose their career. But you, like, I mean, the way you live your life right now, the fact that you're able to get out and be successful means that I know for a fact if you was in that position, you'd be like, whatever.
Right.
I mean, that's how I was. Like I said, I got out and I did the government contract, and I was like, man, screw this, because it was the same. It was more the same.
Really?
Right? Yeah, it's more the same. Like, this is what I learned, and this is a stereotype that I'm gonna throw out there, and so I know it's wrong because I'm blanking an entire, type of people that don't care. Right? Here's what I learned. The government, like you said, the government across the board is real slow for policy and for change and implement things. There's too much bureaucracy, right?
Right.
So what I found is that the people who stay in for retirement did not retire. With their mindset when they retired is not the same person they was when they came in. Right. When they came in, they joined whatever agency or whatever service, whatever form of government they wanted to, because they felt like they could make a change. They really believed in this ideology of, like, I'm gonna drink the Kool-Aid and be successful, right? And make an impact. And they got in there and found out, like, you can't really do shit. You're a nobody. You know what I'm saying? You're a nobody. You got to go through all this paperwork. And when you do come up with an idea, somebody going to steal it and get credit for it and get medals and get promoted. You're not getting shit for it, right? And so you get defeated, you get beat down with all of that, right? And so they get to a point, though, where they should get out, but they convince themselves, well, I'm staying there for they got this carrot in front of their face, a paycheck for life, right? And then they decide that once they decide to stay in for that reason, when retirement becomes a primary, they become ineffective.
I can see that.
Yeah, they do. They become ineffective. And so, like, people like you that show up, right, and you got these fresh ideas, and you're like, oh, we can make this better, and you really out there PTing, and you're trying to do something better, make yourself better, and maybe make, like your parents probably taught you, leave the space better than it was when you came into it, right? You're trying to, like, leave something good. Every idea you come up with is like roadblocked. Oh, we're not gonna do that, blah blah blah. Ain't nobody even trying to hear you. It's because they're not trying to create no waves on their way out. You know what I'm saying? It means they gotta do paperwork. They don't want to do it. They just want to keep crews. They want to sit back. You know what I'm saying? Do what somebody else told them to do 5 years ago. You know what I'm saying? They're not trying to make any change. And so for people like you wasn't raised to sit still. I can tell already. When I first met you. Like, Dom said, when I met you and Dom, I already know that these people is not gonna do 20 years. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen, right? And Dom's really thought he was. Dude did MSG and everything. Like, man, it's not gonna happen, bro.
I did too, for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, right. Because your folks didn't raise you to sit still when you see wrong. They didn't raise you to keep your mouth shut. You know what I'm saying? When you hear bullshit, you call it out, right? Oh yeah. And so, but that's how it used to be. That used to be the Marines that got promoted. Like, I don't know if you ever heard this before. This used to be when I came to Marine Corps. This was a saying. This was a saying my drill instructor said. My Sergeant Majee said when I got to my first unit. My MOS school company gunny said. I heard it all the time in the Marine Corps. Never trust a Marine that doesn't have at least one NJP. That was the saying when I came in. It was like, if the dude ain't got one NJP, he a liar and he's sneaky. That's exactly what they used to say, because ain't nobody that good, ain't nobody perfect, right? So when I had my first Sergeant Magee, he was like, when I get my first page 11, and I was mad about it. And my first sergeant told me, he's like, let me tell you something. You need to be happy, man. You need to go out. You need to go celebrate your friends. You got your page 11, man. He was like, 'cause I'm telling you right now, PFC, bro. I know it was a PFC. You know what I got a page 11 for? I got accused of starting a gang. I got accused of trying to start a gang because I hung out with the only other black dude at my MOS school. And he's what? I'm not even making this up. I'm not even making this up. When I went to MOS school, I was the only black Marine on the whole base, Corey Station, Signals Intelligence, right?
That is
only
wild.
Only black Marine on the whole base, right? It's a joint base. There's other black military PDs in Navy, Army,
right.
You know, so Air Force. But for Marines, I was the only black Marine there. 3 months later, Brandon Brinson shows up, second black Marine. They was like, hey, y'all gonna be roommates. They thought it was funny, right? Gonna put them in the same room, right? So he like, hey man, we get haircuts at me, him kicking it, right? And these white dudes every weekend, like I was on my own thing. When I was there, like I thought I was big balling. So I had two cell phones. I was going to the club every weekend, picking up girls. You know what I'm saying? I had a girlfriend that worked in the mall. You know, so I worked at City Trend, so I can get fresh, cool hip hop clothes, right, for free. And then I was going out to the club and meeting other girls and messing around, right? Like I was out there being a dog in the streets, right? And I thought with my little PFC paychecks. And you know what I'm saying? So I was broke by Monday, right? And so Brandon show up and we on the same thing. But these white dudes, these white Marines, like every single weekend, they be like, hey man, you want to come? Like, knock. I'm like, yeah, what's up in my room? Getting fresh, getting ready to go, right? Like, hey man, you want to come down and play poker with burning some steaks? I mean, I don't play no goddamn poker. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, right? And they used to sit down there in the quad. They play poker. They had a circle. They play poker and grill steaks. And I'm like, I don't like. It's a bunch of dudes. Ain't no girls over here, man. Like we 17, 18 years old, man. You silly? You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, we ain't on adult supervision. Right. You know, like I'm out of here. And so Brandon started doing the same thing. So I got called into the company gunny's office like 2 weeks later. He was like, hey, I'm going to talk to you. He's like, everything good, PFC? You know, blah. I'm like, yes. There's gunny star. He's like, okay, so can you explain to me why, you know, the Marines are telling me that you don't want to hang out with them? They're asking you to hang out with them, and you only hang out. You always go to the Navy quad. You don't hang out with the Marines. I guess you don't like Marines. You only like Navy. And so I'm innocent PFC Grose, right? I was like, oh, no, Gunny, it's because all the black dudes in the Navy. That's exactly how I said all the black dudes in the Navy. And he was like, oh, so because they're not black. And I was like, no, I didn't mean like that. I mean, like those guys listen to the same music as me. We into the same things. We had to go to clubs. These guys like listen to country music and eat steaks and play poker. I was like, I don't know how to play poker. Well, you can learn. I don't want to learn. It's not fun to me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I didn't gonna force you.
Listen, this dude sent me to the company office. The company first, I was Mass Sergeant Codes, had the page 11 ready. I got written up a page 11 for attempting, for being racist and attempting to start a gang, right? With the only other black Marine on the entire base. That is right? Crazy. And I was mad about it. And Mass Sergeant Codes was like, oh, you know, don't be mad. You should be happy you got a page 11. He's like, you know, you never trust a Marine that don't have some kind of paperwork or NJPd. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, right? But then every week until I graduated, this is why I hate MOS. Every week until I graduated MOS school, I spent every Friday night eating steaks and listening to country music. You know what I'm saying? And playing like I know how to play poker, because that's the only thing that kept me from being called a racist. Like
that's crazy.
But that's the Marine Corps, right? Like that's the Marine Corps.
I can't even say that I'm surprised, because I'll never forget when I said nigga, and the staff sergeant, I think he is Hawaiian, but this nigga was offended that I said nigga. He was like, oh, that is a racial slur. You're not allowed to say nigga. Whole time they saying BITCH, pussy ass. I'm like, bruh, I don't even curse. The only thing I say is nigga.
Yeah, they walk around calling females fucking wooks and all this kind of stuff, right? And you mad because she said this?
Man. And then it's like, I don't give a dang that you offended. I don't even identify you as black. Like, I don't. Yeah. That's like a white person telling.
Yeah. It was a sheer hypocrisy of it, right? So a lot of things started getting a little bit different. But,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. What else did you have for me though? What else you want to ask me outside of the Marine Corps?
I don't know if I want to go to school for computer science, but it's definitely like an interest. It's something that I've been picking up as a hobby, picking family members' head that works in it. And so like in the military, I think your job was like dang near the same as you do now.
The same thing I'm doing right now, yes.
So that's why you train. Yeah. Okay, so I remember you saying that you started off contracting, but what made you get into whatever it is that you're doing now? And if you don't mind explaining what it is.
Yeah. When I got out, you know, I went into contract and I was doing using the same skill sets, but doing something different, right? And I actually had a buddy that I met when I was at Fort Meade. I did an intern while I was in the Marine Corps. I got selected for an internship. I applied for, I got selected for it. I got to go work at NSA for 3 years. and so when I was doing an internship, I actually had to complete my college at the same time. So I got my comp sci degree from University of Maryland, College Park, so that's what kind of got me into the skill set, like cemented, like this is what I'm doing for my life. This I figure out what I want to be when I grow up, and this is it, right? So while I was there, I met a guy there that was real cool, another Marine. I mean, we ended up hit off real cool, another Black Marine. We've been cool ever since, brothers ever since, right? So he got out the Marine Corps before me, and he had kicked off his careers, and he, in cybersecurity, and then he ended up becoming the chief technology officer for Netflix. So he was at Netflix as a C-suite executive. Then when I got out, I moved to Maryland. He was like, "Hey man, like let's form a company." So we formed an LLC, and we was like doing our own work. You know what I'm saying? We was hustling. We made some good money. We was making damn good money. We had contracts with Twitter, General Electric, Synchrony Financial. We supported Department of, Justice. So we had like FBI contracts, that kind of stuff, right? So it was cool. We had another buddy come in too. So there's three of us. Then we ended up selling the company, splitting the money, and going separate ways and trying to do something different. So anyway, fast forward, dude hits me up. And I was already like talking to my wife, like, I think I want to get away from government work, blah, blah. And like, it was a blessing from God, because literally I had been talking to my wife about for a week. And that Friday, he calls me. I hadn't talked to him in a couple of years. And he was like, "Hey man, like, hey, I'm the director of this company over here. We're building out the security team right now. It's a fintech company. It's a startup. I could really use your work ethic expertise." So I was like, okay, I'll entertain it. So I interviewed, and I got the job. And it's been the best thing for me. So what I do is I'm a cloud security engineer, right? Basically what I do is secure cloud infrastructure for my company. It's a fintech. So I love fintech's financial technology, right? Mm-hmm. So when you think of fintech, like it's a fusion of like banking and technologists, right? And so when you fuse those, you basically get the people who write the API, write the code behind like all transactions, right? So like you swipe your credit card, and then like it has to call the bank to verify that money is in there, or that you're able to do that, right? Well, the API is called an API, the code that says that when this magnetic stripe is swiped, right, it correlates to like you, and this is your account number, and dial this number on the other end, right? Like we're the ones who write that code for like Visa, and so our customers are like Uber Eats, Cash App, Square, JP Morgan and Chase, and like a few other big banks, right? Visa, MasterCard, like they're using our software to do for everybody across the world to use their cards, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what we do. So I found it's a good space. I like it. It's fast enough. The technology change, I have to keep up with it. Mm-hmm. But if you're interested in getting into it, like what I tell people now is that like computer science was the major to get into when I did it, right? But it's not necessary right now. What I tell people is like, if you really want to get into like break into the field at a like running pace, mm-hmm. right? Get into cloud engineering. You don't need to do computer science. If you get into cloud engineering, you're going to learn Linux, you're going to learn Python, you're going to learn some other scripting language. You're going to. You have to work, right? There's no reason for you to go to school for 4 years just to learn how to code when you can learn how to code in like 30 days, right? After that, you just get better at coding because it's a language by using it, right? So like you go to school for 4 years, a person who goes to school for 4 years can code just as proficient as you in 30 days. You dedicate 30 days to learn like Python, right? The difference is like who got more projects to work on so they can keep perfecting their code, right? So I'll recommend people like get into cloud engineering, get into DevOps. DevOps is a fusion of development and operations. Mm-hmm. DevOps is what you want to get, is what you want to focus on, right? If you can become a really great DevOps engineer within the cloud engineering field, then you are future proofed. You will always find a job. There's like something like 3 million DevOps, cloud engineering jobs out there right now that's open, and there's only like 175,000 people in the United States that's qualified for them, right? So like you write your own paycheck, right? And so I've been telling everybody I can, like, hey, if you want to get into this field, like pick a cloud platform. Amazon, either do AWS, Google, or Microsoft Azure. Doesn't matter, right? Just learn one, get certified in one, right? And you can apply to a job that's running AWS, because as soon as you say, well, I know Azure, okay, cool, you understand cloud technology, we can hire you. You just got to learn AWS after that. But you don't need the AWS cert to do that. All the terminology is pretty much close to similar to the same.
Okay. And then, so I also want to ask, because I always have to bring in the disparities. So
Yep.
for those who look, similar to you, what is your recommendation of trying to get into this field despite, like, all the stuff that exists, the obstacles and stuff like that?
Diversity is a huge problem in this field for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually easier for me than it is for people that look like you. Black women have it the hardest.
Okay.
But I think that's always been true. Like black women, it's like a double negative, right? Because you're a woman and you're black, right? And so what I tell people to do is like get into this field. Remember, like this is what I always say. Remember what your mom taught you, right? And you'll be fine. Like, and that's from writing your resume all the way to nailing the interview, right? Remember what your mom taught you, right? And by that, what I mean is like, you always remain humble, but you don't hide your intelligence from anybody. Right. Remember that you're gonna have to work harder than everybody else to prove that you got the same level of intelligence or more, right? And so find credential programs. Don't fall for some of these scams out here where like you go and spend $1,600 for a class, but there's no certification involved in it, right? Pay the money, invest in yourself, right? Spend the money, find a credential program. Join blogs. Like there's a group on Facebook called I love it, called Black Cloud Geeks. If you're not a part of, you want to get into this, get in there right now, right? They got all the study aids in there. This group of people, black people, is phenomenal. They really about enriching the black community, right? So like Black Cloud Geeks, I can't say it enough. I got put on to it. I didn't create it. The dude who created it is a genius. These people come in there, people contribute all kinds of study guides, books, learning paths, roadmaps. You can go ask a question, they'll tell you, I'm friends with this person. It's like, and some of these people are CTOs and CEOs. I'm friends with a person that runs CompT. I can get you some free vouchers for an exam if you try to, like, for real, right? Okay. Free group. All you gotta do is be black, right? And you, for real, that's all you gotta do. If you anything else, they'll be like, nope, you ain't coming in here. This is for us, right? So if you want to know a good place to start, Black Cloud Geeks, go in and hit the resources up, right? Second thing is, remember what your mom taught you again. Like, when you go to interviews, we black, right? You gotta dress up. We gotta dress up, right? I've done so many interviews right now in my job, like even with black people I interview, and I want to be like, yes, but they show up in there and like, dude, you wearing khakis and a polo shirt. Like, you know better than that, dude. You know we can't do that, right? Because as soon as you leave, guess what they saying? Guess what the rest of the people on the panel saying? I'm the only black person on the panel. Guess what they saying? You said he was dressed, but when a white dude do it, that's acceptable dress attire for them for an interview, right? And so, you may go to a physical place to interview and see people wearing khakis and a polo. You better have a suit on. You know what I'm saying? And if you're a woman, you better have a suit pants or a skirt, and that blazer better be on. You know what I'm saying? We don't have no choice. We can't leave no rooms for error, right? Right. So as long as you keep those things in mind, you can break into the field easy.
Okay. And so last, I want to ask you, if a person was to come up to you and they would say that they either want to join the Marine Corps or get into, you said cloud engineering,
yep.
How would you recommend it? If so, and your explanation as to why, and that's we out of here.
Yep. Okay. I get the same answer I gave my son. My son answers dude just turned 18 a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
right. He just I know, right? He just applied to colleges. But he's thinking about the military, and I was like, hell no. Right. That's my answer. It's a different military from when I joined, and unless your circumstances are like mine. If you have the ability to go to college, a vocational school, or even any kind of like certification school, right? Even if it's like, hey, I want to get into cloud technology, do that, right? Because it's going to be so much more worth your time. You're going to get so much more out of it, right? There's nothing that those schools can't give you that the Marine Corps, like the thing about the military is you get outside, like. You use Motor T, right? You didn't have to join the Marine Corps to get a CDL to drive a truck, right? So when you strip that away, like, because you could have got that civilian work, the only thing the Marine Corps gave you was some leadership skills, right? Experiences that some of them were great, and some of you probably could have lived your whole life without ever having, right? And you learn how to shoot a rifle if you didn't know how to do it, right? They didn't teach you how to PT because you hit it up early. So many people I know get out like, I actually enjoy exercise now. They taught you how to be competitive, how to push yourself to limit, where you break bones and snap muscles in an effort to get 300, right? Or an effort to beat this person over here, right? But they didn't teach you about nutrition. They didn't teach you about proper sleep, right? They had skewed body metrics to make you feel like build this self-consciousness that was mentally unhealthy, right? They told you were fat or you were grossly underweight when in actuality you were neither, right? They completely disregarded genetics for the sake of making everybody look the same, which is physiology impossible, right? And so, like, when you put that stuff in there, why would you encourage anybody to go? It's a toxic environment.
Right. It's
not healthy, right? So, you know, if I had to do it over again, I would still do what I did because of who I was and what I grew up in. But unless you got the same circumstances as me or something similar, ain't no reason going to the military.
I feel you there. I feel you there. Right. Well, I thank you for, being a guest here on Maurice, but I'll definitely hit you up in the future, just in case we'll have anything else. But you enjoy yourself and love your family for me.
You too. Tell your wife I said what's up. Me and my wife still looking forward to y'all coming out here to Okie at some point.
We coming.
Okay. Talk to you later then.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. If you want people to think otherwise of you more positively, then give them more positive experiences.